I loved the film, by the way.
Did you? Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm recording. This will be in it.
Hey!
I'm going to start with you, Steph. I mean, I just wondered how you guys sort of came to be aware originally of Derek's play.
So that's probably, sorry, but I think that's probably more for Sarah, just because Sarah approached me specifically for the film.
Okay.
So maybe Sarah can probably talk more about the play, maybe.
Yeah, you know, it was when I was watching, I went to see Kush Jumbo's one woman show, and then just thought, I want to do a one woman show because that looks insane. And I'd worked with Derek in New York when I was working out there, and we collaborated on that and did the one woman show that we took to Edinburgh, and I had another mad idea that we were going to turn it into a film, and I really wanted a female director, and looked around and found the wonderful Steph, and I loved her work, her previous work, and that's sort of how it came to be.
Yeah, because Sarah, I was going to say, I mean, it dawned on me about 10 minutes into this that I've never really seen anything quite like it before. Did you get a sense for that as well when you sort of first saw this story and when you guys were putting it together for the screen? Did you? Obviously, it's quite hard when you're involved in it to see it maybe from the outside, but did it feel quite unique when you were working on it?
Yeah, definitely. And that was quite a lot of the feedback as well that we got, particularly when we were doing earlier screenings of it. It was that it's very, very different from anything really, which is a blessing and a curse, I think.
So what drew you in, Steph, when Sarah brought you this script and said, right, I want you to helm this project? What was it about this story that made you think, right, this is going to be my next project?
Well, in all honesty, it really spoke to me as a filmmaker because I'm actually an abuse survivor, and I've had a lot of immediate family dealing with some of the issues that the film deals with. And I think, whether we like it or not as filmmakers, we are often putting a mirror up to our own selves or in our own lives. But what really drew me to this particularly was the unique tone and the very unique way in which it was probably the first time I actually read a script that dealt with some of these themes, but where the protagonist, the female protagonist particularly, wasn't really just trapped inside her own trauma. She to me came across quite strong, and she was really three-dimensional. And, she had as dark as the film is, she really has hope, like she really wants this fairy tale life, and she wants this fairy tale marriage, and I think also that combined with, as the unique tone of it, where it's not just all, sort of, obviously these issues are very sensitive, but I think the way Catherine particularly deals with her issues, particularly her gallows humor, which is one of her mechanisms, and how she deals with some of her psychosis, just really spoke to me that it was being told in a unique way. And it wasn't all, it wasn't a drama. It was, comedy, mystery, thriller. And the tragedy of her choices really is what drew me to the piece.
I'll follow that, Steph, asking about, because obviously there's a unique tone that comes from the kind of writing, comes from the original story. But as the sort of director of the piece, how was it balancing that darkness with the kind of slight dark comedic elements to this, and that kind of blurring of genres? Was that quite a challenge? Was that a big challenge? Was that done kind of in the kind of post, sort of in the editing?
Yeah, so we developed the script a lot to go from the play. So we changed. There's quite some key plot points that Sarah and I really developed further on from the play, and just to have a little bit more of that sort of mystery and sort of thrill to it, really, what I really wanted to do with this, yes, it was a massive challenge because of the sensitive subject matter. So we did a lot of research. So I particularly did a lot of research, even coming from the background that I did, lots of research. So read a lot of books. We spoke to a psychiatrist. We did a test screening to make sure, what we really didn't want to do was undermine the themes or poke fun at or mock or make them trivial, but rather that the dark humor really comes from her psychosis, and that was obviously a massive challenge that Sarah and I worked really hard together on, and worked for like 3 months together, which was brilliant because, in a bigger world, in a bigger studio, we might not have had that time together, So I particularly, what I really wanted to bring was the representation of her on the screen in every shifting moment. So I had this massive, I'm always a very visually specific director, so I had a very clear idea of the palette. I had a very clear idea of the aesthetic to help lift that from the page as well. And so the grammar of the camera was very important to me, and how it portrays and stays with Catherine, the character. So whenever she's depending on where her psychosis is at, I shifted sort of the visuals for that to always marry that with her. And I had this huge chart that I worked on with, that the DP and I followed. So it's like, oh, Catherine's in this state, so we're going to shoot it like this. And you know what I mean? So it was a massive challenge. And I'm always up for a challenge. I'm kind of not afraid of tackling taboo topics. So, yeah, that's why I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Sarah, I can see why you chose Steph for this project. Yeah. But I was going to say, yeah, Sarah, because I mean, it is quite, I was going to wonder if it's quite a hard film to say. And what I mean by that, and I mean this is a compliment to you guys, is that this film's quite hard to define. And I think films that are hard to define is what can make this art form so wonderful. But producers, distributors, sometimes they need those one-liners to sell your movie in a sentence. Was that bit quite tough?
Oh, massively. Yeah. And because you can't box it, really. It's not one thing or the other. And I think we knew from the get-go that it was going to be a challenge in that respect, for sure.
So how would you sell this movie in a sentence?
Oh my gosh.
I was going to do the one-liner.
No, Steph, you don't take it.
It's a psychological thriller with a bold streak of dark humor.
Nice.
That's exactly what it is.
I had to come up with that very early on, so I knew where I was going, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I so often, when I interview actors and actresses who played quite heavy roles or sort of characters that are dealing with trauma and stuff, I ask the actors and actresses about if it can be quite sort of psychologically kind of exhausting to be in that headspace every day. But I was going to ask you, Steph, as a director, as you've got a kind of personal affiliation with the kind of narrative, can it be quite exhausting for you, even behind the lens as well, in that regard?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because, I'm a very hands-on director, as Sarah knows. So I have my fingers in all the pots. And when it comes to dealing with this kind of subject matter, there's a particularly one scene, which I don't want to say, that was really, really exhausting. That day on this set, it was palpable in the air. It was just a very traumatic scene to do and to direct and even for the crew, actually. So we had a lot of females on our set. We had quite a few tears at the end of that day because it brought up memories for people, and it is very hard. And I think to balance, so yes, it's exhausting, but I think, if you're a tight-knit crew and you're tight with your actors, and it's about trust, and it's really about having that bond and that trust so that they know that they're never going to let you go, so it's really about hanging on to each other and making sure that every single one of those moments is being told completely in complete conviction and in a truthful way. And those are the parts of the film that we never treated in a dark comedic way. We never used the comedy in those scenes. And it's always about counterbalancing that with, lots of wine at the pub at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And actually trying to have, quite a lot of camaraderie on set as well, because you need that release and you need that balance, and that's in a way kind of part of the uniqueness of the film. It can be quite dark, and then there's these tiny bits of release because of the way Catherine deals with her trauma.
Yeah, Sarah, I mean, obviously this is such a wonderful character for anyone to get their teeth stuck into, but was there a sense of relief when it was over? Because I just guess just going to that headspace every day must, as we sort of mentioned before, it must have been quite just exhausting in many ways.
It definitely was. Yeah, God, it's a weird one. But I'd also sort of partly been through that when I did the show, which was exhausting. I did it for a month at Edinburgh, which like 22 shows is a lot to be in that sort of in that zone. So I was kind of knew like what it would be like, but obviously film is completely different, and yeah, it's exhausting. But as Steph said, we had such an incredible crew and cast, and the connection with everyone. That all makes it easier. And then pub. Half a wine.
It seems wrong for me to kind of highlight the one man in the piece when it's such a brilliantly female-led story, but I'm such a big fan of Tom Cullen's. I've interviewed him before, and our interview spilled out into the pub, and we were there for ages. he is just one of those people that's just great to be around. He's got a real kind of energy about him. That must have made it quite, because I mean the scenes he's in, I mean obviously there's a kind of intensity bubbling under the surface, but he naturally is quite a charismatic guy, which must have made them a bit easier to shoot.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's great to work with, and yeah, I mean he's just wonderful.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm assuming that wasn't him lying down with a towel wrapped around his head the whole time, though. Well.
It was.
It was.
Say that. Yeah.
And I was going to say, to Sarah's point, I was going to say he was really supportive, because we're obviously a low budget film, and he was all the cast actually were awesome that way. I mean, we all worked for packet of crisps and a pint because the story, we all wanted to tell this story, you know what I mean? And that's what's really bonding. And Tom was really, really supportive. Sorry, go ahead.
There's a particular moment that I'm thinking about where, I'm not going to give this away, am I? With the head bouncing down the stairs. And that was actually Tom's idea. And that's Tom in there being, and his head bounced down the stairs. And he was like, yeah, let's just do it. Come on. Yeah.
We had a prosthetic ready to go, I think. Like we were like, and he was like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, it's fine. My head's wrapped in a towel,
Yeah. I was literally dragging him down these stairs.
Yeah. He's like, it'll be funnier if it's me in it. We're like, great.
I assume it wasn't his arm anyway in one particular scene.
Yeah. I know.
Maybe a little bit too far. Yeah.
And Sarah, what was it like as well working with Jade on this? Because she's wonderful in this as the kind of supporting lead, I thought. And she it must make your life so much easier when you're opposite such talent.
Yeah. Do you know what, Jade, when we were talking initially about the film, before we'd even written the screenplay, Jade was I'd seen her, she did that, there was a all-female Shakespeare trilogy that they did at the Donmar that I saw her in, and I just thought she was amazing. And so when we even started talking about doing the film, for me, that Jade was Anita for me. So to get her, to actually play Anita was amazing.
Yeah, she was great. Again, really supportive, and just a pleasure to work with, just really like got it. You know what I mean? Like she was great to have.
Yeah. Dreamy.
How different a beast was this as a directorial debut, as a feature film, because rather than kind of shorts, do you carry those same techniques and sensibilities over into the feature form, or do you almost have to reinvent yourself behind the lens?
No, I feel like, I've been doing this like 20 years in various different roles, so I was first assistant directing, I was doing, and I made by that time, 4 or 5 shorts. So I think, obviously you have a longer story arc, bigger story arc, and there's obviously, more plot. So it's basically like, it's the long stretch, you know what I mean? So, it obviously takes a lot more time and it takes a lot more energy, but I'd say, the biggest difference by that point for me was just making sure, like, you can get, I guess it's easier to get lost in like, where are the bigger story beats, and making sure that like you're hitting those and not getting caught up in, obviously filmmaking is hard and there's a lot going on, and it's, there's, and so trying to find that headspace and for a longer period of time. But we were very lucky, you know, Sarah really thankfully listened as well to sort of my request of doing like 5-day weeks. And so, you know, normally you could do 6-day weeks on a technical side, and that really helped because we had, which also helped with the subject matter for us. I think we had that breather every weekend, because sometimes on especially low budgets, you know, you're doing 6-day weeks. So so I think I was more acutely aware of that. But by that point, I think I had made, you know, being Keegan, and you know, some of my shorts were almost a half an hour long. So my shorts tended to be kind of longer shorts, I guess. But definitely the narrative arc and the big story beats, I think, was, you know, I was very more acutely aware of how many more of those there were to look out for, make sure that they hit. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the 5-day week.
Oh yes, we like the 5-day week. I like to have a 3-day week myself, but more pub time. Yeah.
My final question, I was going to ask you, Sarah, because it almost became like an iconic outfit in this. Was it like that pink Ralph Lauren sweater? I love such a good one. Did you get to keep that? Was it yours?
I kind of wanted to burn that at the end, to be honest.
Only one, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, God, there were a couple of times when, and also it was so hot when we were filming, and just being in that sweater and sweating, and yeah, by the end I was like, get rid of this thing. But I have kept a couple of things.
Oh, what did you keep?
You know, I kept the pajamas.
Oh, nice.
And I did keep the bow saw as well. Yeah.
Do you keep any memorabilia, Steph, from your projects?
I do. I always have like a little, I actually have like a little, whatchamacallit, little mascot. So the art department got me an actual little zebra, which I should have had here to show you. But I always keep my slates, and I ended up, for some reason, I have Catherine's diary, her journal. So whenever I feel like, you know, wanting to feel normal, I look at Catherine's diary. No.
That's not normal.
Yeah, no, it's just not normal. No, to make myself feel normal. So yeah, normally the slate though, or a little mascot.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today, guys, and best of luck with the release. Honestly, I've just never seen anything quite like it, and that is, yeah, about as big a compliment as I can pay you both. It was.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great to hear. Thanks, Stefan.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!